Hello everyone, welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. In this one, we're going to be taking a look at an updated deck list for Vynnset Iron Maiden, who I believe is the last hero who got new cards that I haven't gone over yet from who got new cards in Rosetta. I'm pretty sure I went over Kano a few weeks ago. He is the only wizard in the format. I did all the heroes. I did Viscerai. I don't think there's another one. And I even did Blaze. So we went through all of the heroes. I guess we didn't go through Chain and LL, but I'm not going to go through Chain. I don't even think the card in. What was the rune? I don't think any of the cards in Rosetta. Well, actually, that's not true. There are definitely cards in Rosetta that help him. But the good thing about waiting so long, and if you saw the video, the two last videos, we get to take a look at some hunted cards because there's a lot more decks I think I'll get to talk about in hunted. And also, I'm still waiting on the weapons to do the first impressions because the heroes seem so important on their weapons. But next week I might just do the video anyway. But we do get to look at the new hunted cards. Vynnset getting Cull. We'll talk about Cull a little more once we go through the actual cards in the deck. But for now, let's talk about Vynnset Iron Maiden. Vynnset is the newest Shadow Runeblade from Dusk Till Dawn. She replaced Chain, who was LL. Vynnset's ability is at the start of your turn, you must banish a card from your hand. If you do banish a card from your hand, you make a rune chant token. And whenever you play a shadow non-attack action, you may pay a life, and if you do, your next rune chant effect that would deal damage can't be prevented. So that's important because a lot of your cards care about heroes losing life, either you or any number of players. So having an ability to make you pay the life is really good, as well as the weapon makes you pay some life for some interactions with that. But Vynnset is a pretty unique hero. A lot of her cards only she plays. I mean, people do play Runegate Chain in other formats, but realistically, most of the cards she's playing are pretty unique to her. For the equipment, we're playing Flail of Agony is a Vynnset specialization. This is her weapon. It costs 1 life to attack with for only 1 power, but it has an on-hit of a rune chant generation, which is really nice for Vynnset. This card gets a lot of use. A lot of people do play Scepter, but because this deck is a little lacking on its yellow and blue count, Scepter doesn't get to come in for the most amount of times in a game. Normally, if you have Go Again, you'll end off with a Flail or just nothing at all, depending on the turn. With that, we are playing Grimoire of the Haunt. This is a Shadow Runeblade offhand that has an instant effect to banish it for a resource to make an Eloquence token. That'll be a little more important for when we talk about our actual deck, but mainly it's an AB1 Blood Debt offhand. We're never breaking it realistically. We'll do it sometimes if we need the Eloquence token, but it's really just an AB1 offhand. And the reason this is here instead of Scepter is because in our sideboard we're playing a Bloodied Oval. We'll talk about Bloodied Oval more when we take a look at our actual inventory, but we're on that over the Scepter, which some people do decide to play, and I think that's a fair choice if you wanted to. For the other equipment, Face Purgatory is, of course, the brand new Runeblade helmet from Rosetta. This card is still just insanely powerful. Runeblade is all about attacks and non-attacks, and since it's something that can maybe even fix your hand, it's pretty good for Vynnset to have. Final Spring Tunic is our primary chess piece of choice because we have a few cards that cost 1 that we would not like to pitch a card to play. Vexing Quill Hand is a very important glove, mainly because of its action, not its arcane barrier. And since we have AB2 in our inventory, thanks to Dyadic Carapace, and the one from Grimoire of the Haunt, we can actually use this versus arcane matchups, which is really nice. It just has an action to destroy itself to make 2 rune chants, and the action has Go Again, which gives us rune chance to play our rune gate attacks, which is really important for Vynnset. We want to be attacking every turn, and if we get a turn where we don't do that, we are definitely in trouble. But to help alleviate that, there are some cards that help us generate some rune chants. So let's take a look at the main board. The main one that lets us do this, actually two that let us do this, are both cards from Rosetta. The first, and I would argue more important but not as good card, is Deadwood Dirge. Deadwood Dirge is a 0-cost action with Go Again. It only has 2 block, but we're an aggro deck. We're not really blocking. It lets you destroy an aura you control, and if you do, you make 3 rune chant tokens. This is incredibly powerful because Vynnset's ability makes us banish a card to make a rune chant, so we're probably going to banish a rune gate attack. And a lot of the rune gate attacks in this deck cost 3, so with a 2-card hand of that rune gate attack and Deadwood Dirge, we can make the 3 rune chants off of our 1 rune chant and then come in with that other attack. There's only 1 attack we can't play like that, but that's whatever. This card is very good in Vynnset because you're always going to have that aura in play at the start of your turn, and most of your attacks cost either 2 or 3, which this puts you over the line to actually play them. Very, very good card. Also really good with Spellbound Creepers, because, it gives us an extra action point because the Dirges Go Again. The other addition from Rosetta is Malefic Incantation. We're only on the reds in this list, but a lot of lists do also include the yellows. Malefic Incantation is another 2-block 0-cost Go Again action. However, this one is an aura. It enters with 3 verse counters, and when there are none, you destroy it. And once per turn, when you play an attack action, you remove a verse counter, and if you do, you make a rune chant token. This is really good at going wide, since making an extra rune chant can allow you to use something like your gloves or Deadwood Dirge or even like a Funeral Moon to generate an extra rune chant to be able to play another rune gate attack. And Vynnset gets an incredible amount of power when she's able to play 2 rune gate cards in 1 turn. This also lets you save up rune chants for your next turn. So there could be a situation where you need to block and you have 1 card left in your hand, but it's a 2-cost rune gate attack. So you'll have 1 rune chant from the Malefic and the one you just made off Vynnset to be able to throw it back and have some offense at your opponent, even on just a 1-card hand. So Malefic is very powerful. Again, some lists are on yellows. We are only on the reds here. But you're never not playing the reds. You're always playing the reds. We also are on Runeblood Incantation. Some lists aren't on this anymore, but I think this card is definitely powerful. Runeblood Incantation is another aura, and instead of generating a rune chant whenever we attack once per turn, this one just does it at the start of our action phase. It also doesn't destroy itself right away when it hits 0, so there are times where we can destroy it with Deadwood Dirge instead of a rune chant, which is a little nice. It's mainly here just as sort of that second use of Malefic to have a back-end rune chant guaranteed, so we can play some of our 2-cost attacks if we are struggling a little more, or it even lets us save our rune chant generators for our second attack, giving us enough to play our first attack just straight out of the gate. So I really do like Runeblood Incantation, and it's a card that makes really good use out of Tunic. So it's a very good card for Vynnset. The last 2 super synergy cards, because other than the 2 ofs and the other 3 ofs, the last 2 really, really good cards you always want to be playing hands down at 3, I think, are Envelop in Darkness and Shadow Puppetry. Envelop in Darkness is another one of those 1-cost cards we'd rather play with Tunic, but this is a card we're fine pitching. It makes a rune chant, and it gives our next rune gate attack +3 this turn. Specifically one that you do rune gate, not a rune gate attack, so you have to rune gate it. You can't play this into a Phantom Wraith or something. You have to rune gate it, but you're going to do that pretty much all the time. It's a +3 pump, plus giving you a rune chant. Really nice card. I would play this in Vynnset all of the time, all day. And the last one is Shadow Puppetry. This is a base shadow action, but that does actually let you proc Vynnset because it's any shadow non-attack, not just Runeblade non-attack, which it's the only card that we went over so far that does actually let you do that. It gives your next attack +1 go again, which is already incredibly powerful, but also an on-hit to look at the top card of your deck, and you may banish it. So this can let you go a little wider, giving the attack you're playing go again, and making it so you can maybe draw another Runegate card off of the top to your banish zone to be able to play it with another Runechant generation type effect, as well as Shadow Puppetry itself has go again. Same as Envelop and Runeblight Incantation, all good for Spellbound Creepers if you ever need to. The next few non-attacks in the deck are just some simple 2-ofs. I want to talk about the instant speed effects as the last parts of the non-attack action section video. Also, I forgot about Machinations. We'll talk about that after these two. Revel in Runeblood is a 0-cost action. Has go again, just like all the others. And it's a little trickier to play, which is why we're only on 2 of it. If you've played an attack and another non-attack this turn, you make 4 Runechants, and at the end of your turn, you destroy all of your Runechants. This card's very powerful, letting you play your pretty much second Runegate attack in a turn. It's the best thing to do that. It's probably the best thing to use with Spellbound Creepers, but it can be a little inconsistent, which is why I only like 2 of it. Read the Runes is a 0-cost Runeblade action that simply just gives you 3 Runechants. This card's, again, very powerful. It's good on turns where you don't have an attack to actually throw, or a turn where you're trying to set up, like turn 1, or a turn where you know your opponent can't kill you, but if you set up your 2-attack turn, you can definitely kill them next turn. It's better with Eloquence tokens, which is something we'll talk about in a little bit. But it's also fine to just end your turn if, you have a go-again attack but nothing to do after. It's better than swinging with the flail in most situations. And then I did forget about Machinations here. This one just gives your next Runeblade attack action overpower, which means they can only block it with 1 action card. And and it's going to go again because you played or created an aura off Vynnset's ability every turn. So it'll give it go again too. So this is just another go again effect, similar to the Shadow Puppetry, which this card kind of pushed Mauvrion Skies out of the deck. That used to be a card you'd see a lot in Vynnset, but there are so many go again effects that you really don't need it anymore. And this is another card from Rosetta. It's really nice. The last 8 non-attack actions in the deck are all effects that we can play at instant speed. The oldest one and the most basic example is Funeral Moon. Funeral Moon is a Shadow Runeblade action that can be played from your banish zone. And if any hero has lost life this turn, you can play it as an instant. That's very important because Vynnset doesn't have to be the one to lose life. You can have an opponent lose life, which you have a lot of instances of 1, so that's pretty easy. It can help you set up your following Runegate attacks because it's an instant. You can do it whenever you want. But notably, since it's a non-attack action, it works incredibly well with Eloquence tokens. Eloquence tokens give your next non-attack action card you play go again. Think of it like an embodiment of lightning, but for non-attack actions instead of, or I guess like Quicken as well, but Quicken works on weapons and lightnings don't. You know what I mean? But Eloquence gives your non-attack action go again, which is incredibly good with Funeral Moon because you can instant speed out this and then gain an extra action point. That brings us to our brand new card from the Hunted, Cull. It has the same first, second, and fourth line as Funeral Moon, being the playable from banish, playable as an instant if a hero lost life, and Blood Debt effects, as well as same cost, color, and pitch. But, obviously, instead of making a Runechant, Cull instead requires each hero to banish a card from their hand. This effect is incredibly powerful. It's a very good disruptive effect that can make an opponent just lose the last card they need to defend themselves and allow you to banish another Runegate attack that your opponent might not be expecting you able to play. We are only on 2 copies of Cull because Cull as a card is, I think, worse than Funeral Moon. However, the times where Cull is powerful, it is incredibly strong. It's also worse than the next card we're going to talk about, which is a little more targeted hand destruction and doesn't require you to lose anything. But Cull is another effect that works well with Rune Chance because if your opponent takes Rune Chant damage, this can take a card out of their hand to stop them from blocking your actual attack, which is pretty nice as well. It's also Shadow, which means it works well alongside Vynnset's hero ability, if necessary. So Cull is a very good card, but I think it is worse than Funeral Moon, and it can sometimes hurt you if you don't have a Ringate attack, so I'm only opting for 2 copies of it. It's another card that can work well with Eloquence tokens as well. I guess it can give you that window to swing in with your Flail if you had an Eloquence token, which really isn't bad. So Cull definitely has a lot of uses, I just don't know if it's going to be a 3 of. And the last non-attack action in the deck is one from Rosetta. Succumb to Temptation is just an incredibly powerful card. If you've dealt arcane damage this turn, which you probably will because you're Vynnset, and you can make things unpreventable, you can play it as an instant. It also is 3 block and has Go Again, so it's just premium Runeblade stat line. And also, its Go Again gives you the action point because you're playing it as an instant. It says the next time a Runeblade attack action card you control hits a hero, look at their hand, choose a card, and they discard it, making this just a Thoughtseize for doing arcane damage and landing an attack, which you probably will because if your opponent wants to try, they probably wouldn't have prevented the arcane damage, and most of your attacks are 6, so they'll put 2 cards in front. But they can't if you use something like a Machinations, or it'll be 7 with like a Shadow Puppetry. So it forces your opponent to want to block everything to not lose to a Succumb to Temptation or lose life, which they did already lose life to some of these other effects, to not take the when the chain close effects on all of your Ringate attacks. But Succumb being able to threaten that hit effect is just so powerful. We see it in Viz as well. Actually, the only heroes that really aren't playing Succumb to Temptation are the 2 new ones from Rosetta. This feels exactly like a support 2 older Runeblades card, and it is incredibly powerful because of it. This is the best way to be able to play 2 Runegate attacks in a turn because it naturally has Go Again itself, so it gives you the extra action point. An incredibly powerful effect, one of the best in the deck. Finally, let's talk about the actual attacks in the deck. Every attack in this deck has a Runegate, which is a mechanic that lets you play it for free from your Banish Zone if you have that number of Rune Chants in play. And all these are pretty basic, so we'll just run through them really quick. We're only on red Deathly Delight, 3 of it, 2 for 5. When the chain closes, you gain life equal to the number of heroes who's lost life this turn. Pretty good effect. Nets you 1 life in general, because if you lost life, well, you lost life, so you're getting that 1 life back. So if you can hit your opponent, you'll get 1 life. All 9 copies of Deathly Wail. This card's incredibly important for going wide. This is a 3 for 6 at red, 1 less power per color down. But it gives you a Rune Chant for each hero that lost life when the chain closes, so it can help you set up for your attacks next turn, as well as give you Rune Chants on the current turn to be able to play another Runegate attack. Eloquent Eulogy is from Part the Mistveil. This is the newest Runegate attack. It's only a 1 for 4, which is pretty nice, and if someone lost life, you get an Eloquence token when the chain closes, which helps you use things like Funeral Moon, Cull, Read the Runes, stuff like that. Phantom Banshee is a 3 for 7. Phantom Wraith is a 2 for 6. Just simple stat lines, higher damage than their averages for their cost. Widespread Ruin is a 2 for 6, which I guess, yes, is the same damage as Phantom Wraith, but that's because all of the widespreads do 6. Widespread Ruin has an effect where each hero that lost life this chain link or this turn, when the chain link closes, banishes the top card of their deck. This is generally the worst disruptive effect of the widespreads, but it's the most aggressive at a cost of 2. So you still want 3 copies, and it can sometimes give you another Rune Gate attack to play later. Widespread Destruction, I would argue, is the best one, and it makes heroes that lost life this turn banish a card in their arsenal, which, if you're playing this, you can play around it really easily. So, really good card. And then finally, Widespread Annihilation, which is a 4 for 6, but is blue. And it has the heroes banish cards from their hand. So, very good effect, disruptive effect on Widespread Annihilation. However, it is a little harder to play at a cost of 4. You need 4 rune chants to do this one. Finally, let's move on to the inventory. Starting off with the equipment, Crown of Providence will come in over Face Purgatory versus decks that are going to try and disrupt you a lot. Vynnset can fold a bit to disruption. You are an aggro deck, but you do have a lot of disruption, especially with the Face Purgatory as well. So you can play well into matchups you need to disrupt, as well as matchups that need to disrupt you. We're also playing Ebb and Fold, mainly just for Kano, so we don't get blown up. We are on a lack of blues, even though we have a high amount of AB. We can pay for AB, but it is tough sometimes. So Ebb and Fold is going to be a good choice versus any wizard not playing a lot of attacks. So mostly Kano, some Verdant as well. We're on Dyadic Carapace for a more blocking chess piece if we need more block, and for the AB2, which gives us AB3, allowing us to break Vexing Quill Hand because it's 3 with the Grimoire. If you are going up Dyadic, I would probably go down the Runeblood Incantations for something else, because this card costs 1 and we don't have Tunic anymore. And you could consider going down Envelops, but I think Envelop is good enough to keep it. But I would definitely go down the Runeblood Incantations if I was going down Tunic. As well as it'll probably be a faster matchup, so you might not get full value out of the Runeblood Incantation. And then the final piece of equipment is the Bloodied Oval. This will come in versus matchups where you don't really think you'll need the Eloquence token on demand from your weapon. These, I find, are a lot of the matchups where we'd also want Dyadic Carapace. So going up Bloodied Oval might want you to consider going down things like Read the Runes, because it won't have Go Again at base. Or maybe even like Revel in Runeblood, or possibly even Cull. You can play Cull defensively, but all it does in the aggro mirrors is make your opponent less powerful against you. It's really hard to set up a strong Cull in an aggro mirror, so maybe you could go down the Cull as well. But Bloodied Oval is really just for an extra health versus those matchups. And then for the actual cards in the inventory, we have a lot of defensive options. Haunting Rendition is going to be our AB prevention tool of choice. It also just has 4 base block, which is really nice and gives us a rune chant if we do use it for its damage prevention ability on the discard, which I do really like this card. Some lists aren't on it, but I am a big fan. Reduce the Rune Chant, I would argue, is the best D-React to play in this deck. Any turn that we end on an extra Rune Chant lets us be played for free, and it gives us a Rune Chant extra, which can help us fuel our next turn. So it's a very powerful card. And then finally, Sink Below, because we're Runeblade, our hands can sometimes be pretty dang bad, so Sink Below can help fix that. A lot of lists aren't on 9 D-Reacts, but I think 9 is a good number. Technically, it's 6 D-Reacts, but a Haunting Rendition will usually only come in versus matchups where we think we actually want to use the damage prevention effect, not so much actually blocking with it. And then Reduce and Sink Below are our main defensive options. The last card is Oblivion. This will only come in versus our super late game matchups because we actually need to make Nasreth. Nasreth ability doesn't matter unless you're against a light hero. It's just a free 6 power that we can turn our go-agains into. It's very hard to actually make happen versus faster matchups because we need exactly 6 rune chants in play. But Oblivion is a very good card in those super late matchups, so we need to play it in our sideboard for them. And with all of that, that is going to be the end of the video. I hope you all had a good Christmas and have a happy New Year. I'm excited to see what the New Year brings to Flesh and Blood, because this year, 2024, I thought was pretty good. We started with heavy hitters into Parthemis Veil, into Rosetta, I think, are 3 very strong sets. I really like a lot of the heroes that they released this year, and I'm excited to see what heroes are released next year. We obviously know Syndra, Fang, and the new Arachne, 3 heroes that I think look really cool, and I can't wait for. But I believe it was James White himself said the set after this is going to be really interesting. So can't wait for that one, as well as we have Mastery Pack Guardian this year. Sadly, it got delayed, but it is slated for 2025. So when we know that one comes with Balda from reading the side of the box. So cannot wait for that one. But with all of that, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. And I guess technically this will be uploaded in the new year. So I will see you the whole rest of the year. Goodbye.